Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Erica, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 20 eyeshadow palettes out of my collection that I think are perfect for winter. Some of these are holiday themed. A couple of them are holiday themed. I'm not really thinking in terms of holidays necessarily. I'm just really focusing on the season of winter. Now, I do think you can wear eyeshadow palettes any time of the year. And I don't really ever base my looks on the seasons, although sometimes I do. It just kind of depends, maybe for video purposes, like a fall look or a summer look or spring or winter, whatever. But I will grab a palette and use it any time of the year. So that doesn't really matter to me. But it is fun. I've said this before. It is fun to think about what palettes remind me of certain seasons, or palettes I think would be fun to wear if you're thinking about the seasons. Does this make any sense? So I did not rank these palettes because no, I just didn't want to rank them. I thought that would be a lesson in futility, which that often is for me when I try to rank palettes. I just am going to show them to you and talk to you about why I love them and why I think they're perfect for winter. Now, I do have one honorable mention that I want to start off with. It's not, well, I guess I could have, so maybe I have 21 palettes. Let's just call it 21 palettes. I do have some shades from this palette on my eyelids today. I'm currently filming a 3 looks video with this palette, and it is the Colourpop Aurora Struck palette. And I'm loving this, really enjoying this palette. I love it. If I can open it, that'd be great. But I just think it's such a beautiful, cool tone color story. Really fun shades in here. This one kind of blew up, but whatever. It's just a beautiful palette, and cool tones, which I think cool tones are perfect for the season of winter. Absolutely. I'm really going to be wanting to use a lot of cool tones during this time of year. I'll use cool tones any time of the year, but I do think they're really fun to pull out and use during the winter. But yeah, really having a blast with this palette. I'm loving it, and I'm really excited to keep filming with it. I have one more look to film with this palette. So what I did is I just looked through my collection and pulled color stories out, which I thought matched winter. Darker color stories, a lot of blues in here, just deeper shades, well, let me just show you the palettes and then they'll maybe make more sense. So let me start off with the first one here I have on my little stack. This is the All That palette from Colourpop. And I just think this color story says winter, like the depth of it, the shade, these 2 shades especially, well, this whole row down here. And you got some really pretty lighter options in here too. I've been really impressed with the looks that I've put together with this palette. I just think it's stunning. This shade right here is a pressed glitter, and this palette's a couple years old now, and I was kind of messing around with that shade, and I don't know, I was swatching it and stuff, and it was kind of weird. And this shade's getting funky too. But the rest of these, when I've used this palette not very long ago, worked great. But yeah, I was a little disappointed with that shade. Age does catch up with all of us at some point. But don't you think this is good for winter? I think it's good for winter. Love this palette. Then we have the Frozen 2 palette from Colourpop as well. Disney's Frozen 2. Never seen the movie. Actually, that's not true. I did watch the movie finally with my grandson. He loves the Frozen movies. He just cracks up at Olaf. He loves Olaf. And I think this is a beautiful wintry color story, especially this shade right here, even though it's a pressed glitter. That almost looks like snow in the palette. I've never used that shade before because I don't really love the Colourpop pressed glitter formula. But this, I think, is a beautiful silver shade. If you want to glam up your winter look, I think that would be perfect. This shade is stunning. It's like this white base, but it's got pink and blue and lavender shifty stuff going on. I think this is a really interesting color story. Lots of different things you can do. This is one of those types of palettes where you can do 1, 2 shades and done. Or obviously pull a bunch of them together. It's only 9 pans, but still, a lot of different tones or range of shades in here. And I really have fun using this palette. Then we have the Cassie palette from Saints, Angels, Sinners, one of my favorite indie brands. And I love the packaging, cute little cat here, Cassie. And I think this color story definitely says winter. There's some really pretty wintry colors in here. This one especially, this kind of icy blue. This is a beautiful duochrome. It's kind of green, I almost said pink, green and purple, green brownie purple, just beautiful. This is a nice wintry shade. This is stunning. This would be perfect for an inner corner shade or under your brow or just across the entire lid. This would be perfect to pop over the top of one of these darker mattes. But this is a really fun palette. All these palettes are really fun. But I just love the formula of Saints, Angels, Sinners, mattes, and shimmers. Just stunning. Then we have the Murky Waters palette from Ladybug Glow. Oh yes, love this brand. You guys know I'm madly in love with it. Love the packaging. And I do think this is a wintry color story. The blues and the duochromeness of the shimmers. And, yes, we have this bright spring green, but I still think that would pulled together for a wintry look, right? What? I don't know, maybe not. But I am thoroughly impressed with the formula of the Ladybug Glow palettes, this one especially. This is such a beautiful palette. This shade right here is the only shade I think I have not used yet out of this palette. It's called Murky Waters. Why have I not used that shade? It's stunning. I think that's a perfect wintry shade. This shellfish shade, geez, is stunning. It's kind of like pink with this really cool like purpley blue flip. That's the thing I will say about Ladybug Glow shimmers, is that the majority of them are very duochrome or very metallic. And so when you put on one of these shimmer shades, this one too, it's got green and purple, you have like so many different colors in just the one shade, which is really fun, really, really fun. I highly recommend you guys checking out this brand. So then I grabbed the Gothic palette from Cosmic Brushes and pulled it into this video. Really, Erica? We couldn't tell you did that. And I have never tried this brand before until I grabbed this palette. I don't know, I just saw this online when it was released and I was like, I gotta get it because I love purple eyeshadows, and was so impressed with how the shades in here performed. I mean, just gorgeous. I cannot wait to use this palette again. This shade right here called Obscure is probably my favorite shade in the palette. It's got this, you know, like white base, but then it's got like blue and pink and purple. I mean, just so cool. Very deceiving. I love it. And, you know, deceiving in a good way. You know, I don't want people to deceive me, but if my eyeshadows do and it works out well, I'm fine with that. But I do think this, because of the depth in here, is really a great palette for winter. I do, you know, and you have brights and lights too. But the depth in here really says winter to me. I don't know. Maybe my line of thinking is strange, but oh, cannot wait to use this palette again. Then we have the Raven's Castle palette from Makeup by Lisa. And I've shown this several times on my channel. I've used this a couple times on my channel too. And I do think this is a beautiful wintry color story. Cool tones, but some light too. And I just really enjoy putting looks together with this palette. This black matte is probably one of the best black mattes I have in my collection. These two are toppery type shimmers. What I would love to do with these shades is pop them over the top of the black matte. I think that would look really cool. I've never done that before. But, you know, I do think this is winter. And this is a beautifully formulated palette too. I will link the Makeup by Lisa website if I can. I've had some issues linking it for some reason. I don't know, it like won't let me do that, but I'll try that again. But highly recommend checking out this brand. Steph, not your basic Steph, my best friend and my sister, she turned me on to this brand. And this is another brand that I could go get all their palettes. The next palette I'm gonna show you, I've shown you, I think in every winter palette collection video that I've done so far. And this is the Exano Cosmetics Valkyrie palette with beautiful Tragedy MUE. And don't you think that packaging is just the coolest? She's such a badass. She is my spirit animal. I've mentioned before, when I wake up in the morning, this is who I think I'm going to see in the mirror. I kind of do see her, but not as sexy as she is. Not sexy at all. I do think that this color story says winter. This shade here, it's kind of a light silver. This is kind of like a white base, but it's got these two colors in it. Beautiful. The gray, this shade here too, this kind of like deep red burgundy. Really nice black matte. This is kind of like a charcoal gray matte too. And, you know, there's light in here as well. Kind of icy, but deep too. You know, awesome. And again, this is another brand. I want to get all their palettes. This room is going to cave in on me. And of course, I had to include the Club Nebula that Kidos did in collaboration with Angelica Nikavist. I do think that this is a very wintry color story. I mean, there's spring and summer and fall in here too. But I do think it says winter. You know, this is kind of an awkward palette to hold. But, you know, like the depth here, like this row here, these shades, you know, I do think that that says winter. I mean, you can wear any color on your lids any time of the year. But this is a winter palette video. So I do think this is wintry. And this is one of my absolute favorite palettes. I know I say that every time I show it, but it is. It's just so fun to use. The shimmers in here are so gorgeous. The mattes are so gorgeous. Everything works so well. Then we have the Lethal Cosmetics. I think this is called the Evergreen palette. I threw the box away for this palette. Stupid, because on the back of the box is the shade names. So I don't have the shade names anymore. I mean, I could go on their website and write them all down. I'm going to have to do that. But this palette is absolutely stunning. This was the first palette I picked up from Lethal and still the only palette I've ever used from Lethal. I have created a 6-pan little palette with their duochrome, multi-chrome shimmer shades I still need to film with. Then I got sick. But I had so much fun putting the look together. I filmed with this. Had so much fun, and it took me so long to finally try this brand, and I was so blown away by how much I love this palette and just the shades that I used. So gorgeous. This does not get near enough love. I was going to create looks with this palette. I wasn't going to film, just I was taking that week off of Thanksgiving and I got really sick, as I've mentioned. So this just sat on my desk like a lonely little soldier. But I'm going to keep using this, of course. And I highly recommend you guys check out Lethal Cosmetics if you haven't yet. It's an amazing indie brand, and I'm just thrilled with the performance of their shades. And I will be filming with the little 6-pan palette soon too, I promise. Then we have the Odins Eye Giant Wolves palette that they did in collaboration with Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner. And I really like how this palette opens, because it opens like a book. Is this the only palette I have that opens like that? I think it is. I love this color story, and I really enjoy the shades. I've heard that some people didn't really love this palette, didn't like the formula or the quality of it. And I've never had a bad experience when I've used this. It's been a while. I picked this up a couple years ago during a Black Friday sale, and thrilled that it's in my collection. I love Odins Eye shimmers. This is no, I have another palette from Odins Eye now, but again, another brand I can get all their palettes from. Oh, God. I don't need to do that. I'm so glad I have a little bit of restraint. Not much, but a little bit. Isn't that just beautiful? I do think this says winter. I think the packaging says winter too. I love it. Then we have the Age of Opulence palette from Beauty Bay. And I just think this color story is very wintry. The blues, purples, even the browns. There's a lot of beautiful depth in here, and a lot of beautiful bright in here too. A lot of these shimmers here, like this one here, this one, beautiful. But the depth is what really draws me into this palette. Steph got this for me, and it's very special in my collection. This shade right here called, what is this, Decadent? Oh, I mean, all the shimmer, everything in here works really, really well. I've mentioned before that I know some people weren't thrilled with the neutral options in here, but I like that. I really do. I like having neutral options with colorful options in a palette. And this is such a fun brand. Such a fun brand. I love Beauty Bay. You know, I mean, I'm kind of obsessed with Beauty Bay. I have a lot of Beauty Bay palettes. I love them all. And then I kind of wanted to go a little bit more old school, so I grabbed the Zodiac palette from BH Cosmetics, and I've had this in my collection for years now, and I think this has got a lot of depth and a lot of wintry tones in here. And I have filmed with this before for an old school palette video, and I will say that this palette doesn't perform as well as it used to. It's just old. You know, that does make a difference. But I just love the layout of this palette. The baked shimmers around the outside here, I think are the best baked shimmer formula I've ever used, although I don't have a ton of experience with baked shimmers anyway. The ring of mattes is really nice, and then you have a highlighter in the center. And I don't know, this is just a real staple in my collection. And even though it doesn't work as well as it used to, the mattes work fine. The shimmers just are a little funky. I'm going to hold on to this probably forever. So now I have 3 palettes I'm going to show you that are all from Nomad, starting off with the Snow Lodge Whistler palette, or Whistler Snow Lodge, however you're supposed to say that. And I do think this color story says winter. I think it says holiday. It's got a lot of really beautiful tones in here. I've had a lot of fun playing with this. This is something I'm going to be doing. I mentioned in another video. I do really want to do not palette bingos, but multiple looks videos with all of my Nomad palettes. I just think that would be really fun, just to show how freaking awesome Nomad Cosmetics is. I think I'm going to do that in January. But the depth and the bright and the light and just all the fun tones you have in here, a ton of different things you can do with this palette. And it just says winter to me. And, you know, it says snow on the cover. Snow, winter, okay, hello. And then I also grabbed the Nomad Royal Europe palette, because I do feel like there's some winter in here. You know, maybe like right down the center here, very wintry. The row of shimmers down here are duochrome, multichrome, flippy, just amazingly beautiful. I got it. I cannot wait to do a multiple looks video with this. I got to do that soon. Well, I'm going to do it in January. That's close enough. It's coming up. But I just want to dig my brush into this palette and start throwing stuff on my eyelids, because it's just so beautiful. I did a collab with Steph using this, and oh, so fun. So happy that I picked up this palette, and it's got really cool packaging. All the Nomad palettes have such cool packaging. And then the last one from Nomad is the Fire and Ice Iceland palette, or Iceland Fire and Ice. I don't ever really know exactly how to title palette sometimes, but don't you think that says winter? I mean, it says spring and fall and summer too, I guess, but I really do see winter in here, like the iciness, the blues, and the depth. And I really was not thinking I would ever be able to use this palette. Steph gave this to me, or sent this to me for my birthday, and it's become one of my favorite Nomad palettes. This is Steph's favorite Nomad palette. You know, the color story to me at first looked very disjointed, but now when I look at it, it doesn't look disjointed at all. I really enjoy it. And a ton of different things you can do with this too. And that's what I love about all of my Nomad palettes, really. There's so many different things you can do, and you can get super creative, or you can just do a 1, 2, and done, you know, because these shades are so stunning. They can stand on their own or with just one other shade. I mean, just beautiful. But I do think it says winter. And then I also grabbed a couple from Melt, She's in Parties, which I think I showed this in my fall palette collection too, but I do think this says winter as well. You know, just the depth in here, some kind of more cozier shades, I would say. You know, winter to me, even though it's freezing cold. You know, this palette to me, it looks like it should just be bundled up in a little blankie in front of the fireplace with a hot cocoa, maybe spiked with a little bit of whiskey. I did a collab with Andy with this palette, and this was my first Melt palette that I picked up, and I just fell in love with the brand. I know that some of their palettes people do kind of complain about or aren't big fans of, but I don't think I've ever heard anybody complain about this one. I love this. I love the tones in here. So romantic, so gorgeous, and I really want to use this again soon too. And then the other palette I grabbed from Melt is the Muerte palette, and you know, the packaging of this is so cool. But I do think this color story is very wintry, especially like right in here. And I even think, you know, this whole palette to me is wintry. But again, I know I don't need to keep saying this. You can wear a palette any time of the year. But I do see winter in here. I've mentioned this before. I'll mention it one more time. This shade right here, I think I got a bum shade. It just doesn't work very well. But the rest of these shades that I've used so far, I think I've used all of them now, right? Maybe not that one. But the rest of these are just gorgeous. Really a pretty palette. And such a cool, fun color story. And the depth in here, but then you also have the light, bright. I mean, you guys can maybe kind of see a theme in my collection. I love, well, most palettes are like that, I guess, but I love that. I love having depth or deep options and lighter options too, and this definitely provides that. Then I pulled out the BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop Bubblegum palette for the blues. I just think, you know, icy blues, darker blues, a nice range of blue shades in here. You know, I do think this is winter. And maybe holiday too. But I love this. This I think I've used twice. God, gotta use this more often too. I just, yeah, it's gorgeous. And I've mentioned too, I don't mean to repeat myself all the time. It's probably a little obnoxious, but I do think that the Sweet Shop palettes from BH Cosmetics, best formulation they ever came up with. And I do miss the OG BH Cosmetics brand, I do. And then I also grabbed a holiday themed palette. This is the Nonny palette from BH Cosmetics. I will be doing a little group collab with 3 of my very good friends here pretty soon using this palette. Now this shade right here called Candied Fruit is was my favorite shade in this palette. It dumped out all over the floor. I still have some stainage in my carpet from that shade. I was just broken hearted because that shade really was my favorite shade in this palette. But I love a lot of shades in this, all of them really. I love them. I don't think I've used all of them yet, but I cannot wait to do the collab with this palette. It's going to be so fun. Really, really awesome people that I'm collabing with, and really cool concept for the collab. And yeah, I think this is a beautiful holiday color story. Perfect for winter, perfect for holidays, New Year's, you know, just a lot of fun stuff in here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the collab. And then my last palette here is the Stone Cold Fox from Colourpop, another cool toned palette that I absolutely love. This is my favorite Colourpop palette that I own. And I've heard people say that there's repeat shades, and there is kind of some repeat shades in here. I don't care. I love the performance of the shades. I love the cool tones in here. I mean, I love cool toned eyeshadows. I think cool tones are perfect for winter, and have always had so much fun putting looks together with this palette. I've used this a couple times on my channel, and you know, she's getting messy because she's very well loved, but you know, she will never leave my collection. I just adore her. So those were the 20 palettes, 21 technically, that I pulled out of my collection to pull into this video talking about palettes I think are perfect for winter. And I would love to know if you guys have any of these palettes and what you think of them. And also what palettes you like to use during the season of winter. We can chat about that in the comment section. And this has just kind of become a tradition on my channel. It's on most people's channels. I mean, most people will grab palettes out of their collections for the seasons, but it really is fun. And I know you can use a palette whenever you want to, but it is fun to think about palettes in terms of seasons. I will talk about eyeshadow palettes no matter what it's in terms of. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your lives to sit down and watch this video. If you're new here and you enjoyed what you saw, please consider subscribing, smash the like button, and of course, comment down below in the comment section. Love to chat with you guys there. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I cannot wait to see you guys again in my next video. But in the meantime, please take very good care of yourself. Be well, safe, happy, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Drop it.